Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 8 of the Rickenbacker 620 12 string build. And in this episode we're going to build on the work we did last week when we got the body wings shaped by getting the neck blank into a position where we'll be ready to actually get those wings glued onto it. Okay, so having got the two halves of the back of the body sorted out in the last episode, you'd seem it logical to crack on with the front now. However, the way I'm going about this with the drop top actually introduces some complexity into this, because the potential issue I'm seeing is how we're going to actually glue all this together. Now, I've seen this done in the past where the top is glued onto the two halves and leave a gap in the middle for the neck through section to go in. I'm a little bit unsure about that method because I want to make sure that my body wings are clamped nice and firmly onto the sides. And I think the best way of getting everything joined together as best we can is to join the two wings onto the neck through section, like clamping them in position like that first, and then clamping the top on. But that does leave us a few issues. Firstly, I'm going to bind this body, and I'm going to bind it front and back, and that leaves me a problem of how do I run my binder bit into these sections here. So again, I think this is a case of the importance of getting things done in the right order. So what I'm proposing to do is to get the neck blank prepared to the point where we're kind of almost ready to glue things on. From there, we know exactly where we are with the body wings, which means I can cut my top to shape. Now my plan is, once I've got to that stage, I can kind of temporarily clamp everything together. I can find some places where I can locate the top onto the halves of the body with some pins. I can fasten that all together temporarily, take the neck blank out, and then I can route my binding channels in. I don't think it's going to be an easy job, but realistically, that's the best way that I can see of doing it. However, before we can do any of that, there's a little bit of work we need to do with the central section, because at the moment, right the way through to the nut line from the end of the guitar, this is parallel. And on the plan, it shows that this actually tapers from the end of the guitar right the way through to the nut line. And that means that before we do any of the work with the body bits, we've got to get that taper in. However, to add yet another layer of complexity in, I don't actually want to make any of those cuts until I've got the profile for the back of the neck in, and until I've got this section thinned out to where I need it. So first off, we'll get everything cleared away, we'll get the plan on the table, and we'll get marking out this section here. So with the plan out, I've been able to do some measurements, and basically at the nut, which is this line here, we're about 18mm down. Now I'm going to leave a little bit more meat on than that, so I'm going to go at 20mm there. I'm going to add 2mm, which obviously I can carve down once we get to that point. Next up, I need to take my scale length ruler and make a mark at the 12th fret. And square that across around the corner, and I've just marked that on the drawing as well, and I'm reading here about 19mm at the 12th fret. So again, I'm going to add 2mm onto that, so I'll go 21. I'll just join those two lines up. So that's the kind of profile we want for the neck, but now we need to sort out where this transition is. And if I measure from the nearest fret, is that one there. So I've marked my drawing, and that's the 16th fret. So again, I need to get my scale ruler on and mark for the 16th fret. And from there we can just get some of our radius guides on the job. Pretty much the closest we've got there is 40 mil. It does drop away a little bit more as we get there, so we'll go with that. Okay, so that's all double checked now. I'm happy that I'm going to be cutting the right amount away, and I've also marked this thickness onto this bit here. So we'll get this to the bandsaw. I think I'll start with that cut, and then we'll get this material away from the back of the neck. Okay, so there's the bulk of that material cut away. Still needs a little bit of cleaning up, but a lot closer to where we need to be. And we're also down to the kind of 28 mil there. So next up, we need to figure out how much of this material we need to cut away to get these tapers in. Now, it's only going to be a very rough measurement because some of the lines on these drawings are kind of like 2 millimeters thick themselves, so they're kind of tough to decide which bit you're going to measure to. But as far as I can make out, this central section on the drawing where it meets the end of the body is 52 millimeters. So we're about 26 mil. So we're not taking much off that end of things. However, at the nut end, it's a slightly different story because we obviously need to work out exactly how much material we're going to leave on there. And I want to give myself as much scope as I can at this nut end, because obviously this being a 12 string, you want a little bit more material on the fretboard at that end just to give your fingers some room to operate. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to look at doing a 48 mil wide nut, which might sound kind of quite excessive, but when you think how many strings there's going to be up there, probably makes good sense. So again, get this to the bandsaw, cut the bulk of it off, and then it's just going to be a case of kind of truing these edges up as best we can. Obviously I'll do as much as I can with a hand plane, but we're not going to be able to get right into that headstock area, so we might just have to improvise a little bit around there. Okay, and there we have that neck section all nicely trimmed down. And if I just quickly throw a straight edge along that neck, that hasn't moved at all, having cut all that waste away on the back. So that's really, really good news. Actually, this is starting to look very guitar-like now. However, there is still some cleaning up work to do, but it's not going to be anything exciting. So I'm going to do that off camera. So when we come back next time, we'll be in the position where we can start to get this top material sorted out. And I think that's a really good point to leave this episode. I'll be back in a couple of days' time and we can start getting that top sorted out. But until then, like if you've liked, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.